welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand of the company Hornsvoden. As always, before we jump into the show, I do have to plug our Patreon. I say it every single week. It's how we keep the lights on. It's how we keep the show going week in, week out. How we've managed to get over 300 episodes, nearing 5 years, an incredible journey. And that's all because of the people who give us or donate their hard-earned money for they get rewards, but they donate their hard-earned money to us each month, and it makes the world of difference because we couldn't do it without them. We have a bunch of stuff going on a bunch of people who help in the back end, and we appreciate it very much. So if you can, head over to Patreon/Nordic Mythology Podcast, and those benefits you get are you get access to every single episode. So the latest 20 are for free for everybody, and then they go onto our Patreon, so you get access to every episode we've done. You get the Q&As that we do with our guests, where you get a little bumper part to any episode that we do. The lovely smut episodes of myself, Mags, and Claire do, where we look at Viking amateur erotica that always are a lot of fun, and a bunch of other stuff, early access. So if you can, go have a look on there. If not, a 5-star rating, positive review wherever you get your podcasts. Little things like that sound like they probably don't mean much, but they do. Helps other people find us, helps us. The phrase that always comes to mind is tickle the balls of the algorithm. And I don't know why, whenever I get to this point, that's what I want to say. So I'm just like, well, you know what, I'm going to say it. So that's what those little likes and shares and subscribes do. So if you want to do that, you do that. And with that said, let's get into today's show. I feel like this is going to be a fun, silly one. So
Probably.
So today we return with our creator show, where we bring on somebody who makes a wonderful piece of art, and we sit down and have a conversation about what they make, how they do it, how their inspirations and techniques and all these lovely things, and their journey. So today's guest, whose name I'm going to butcher, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time, and I'm not doing this for a while, but it's I guess today's Fanny Elsa.
Yes.
And her company name is Sværia. You pronounce it, please. You please.
Sværia. So it's just the rolling R. Yeah.
Well, you know, us Brits are famous for not being able to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't feel too bad. But I guess for anybody who doesn't...
I'm so sorry to do this, Dan, before we get into the episode. I just
Max,
want to make you aware that you did it again.
I didn't introduce you. I was so in my own little world.
You've been on a streak.
I know.
You've been on like a month-long streak now, and it happened, and I had so much fun just sitting here sipping my wine. It's like, is he going to forget? Is he going to... He forgot. Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's, you know what? There's one thing that I've changed for this episode that I've never done in like all 300 episodes, is that I'm drinking tea instead of coffee. And I think that's just...
I was actually surprised to hear it. When you sent me a message and you said you're making tea, I was like, tea.
See,
tea,
when you mess with the system...
Yeah. I know, and I've just completely messed it up. So
made my day.
My that voice belongs to my lovely co-host and in-house archaeologist Mags Havgar, who had a lovely calling on your thesis. How's that going?
Yeah, it was great. I had my midway evaluation yesterday. I was exceptionally nervous beforehand, and it went beyond all expectations. It was really great, and I got a lot of constructive feedback. So I'm very happy about that, meaning that I am very relieved and very tired today. So I'm excited about the vibe that we've already got going with our lovely guest Fanny since before we even started recording, because today is just to chill out and talk and have fun, and I'm excited about that.
You have to be very nervous about something to call this guy for a pep talk. Because
yeah, for our listeners, I literally sent Dan a message the day before. I was like, Dan, can you give me a pep talk today? Can we have a call?
You have to be really nervous if I'm your option. Then
well, I feel like that's selling yourself a bit short, man. But if you wanna, okay, we can go with that if that's what you want.
You know,
Well, you seem like a very sweet guy, Dan.
Thank you very
A
much.
very empathetic, very sweet guy. That's the vibe that I got
there
from
we
you.
go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We try.
You're actually just fishing for compliments, Dan,
Actually,
isn't it?
you know what I do?
That's actually what you're doing.
I do that. No, that is one thing that I think we get on the podcast quite often is we get people tend to be quite nervous because not everybody's done a podcast before, and usually they leave and are happy with how it's gone. And I think that we have created a very lovely little bubble that is quite comforting and relaxing, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I think it's really just the two of you that make it so nice. Like, I was very excited to meet you guys, even though I was very, very, very nervous. I don't know if I'm showing it, but I'm really like,
not at all.
My cheeks are grabbing the couch, but I'm like so nervous.
I thought you were going to say they were blushing, and I was like, actually, that took a different turn to where I thought we were going.
I love this episode already. I'm so excited.
I'm so nervous, but like it's just the two of you that just make it so comfortable. Really, I was so excited to meet you guys. So it's really nice.
Thank you. Well, we're excited to talk about your, like I say, your
I'm blushing now.
Your beautiful artwork. So you make clothing that is inspired by the incredible history, landscape, architecture, I guess, of Iceland. Which is your home, and I guess let's start with. So anybody who doesn't or isn't familiar with your work, they can go and find you on Instagram. Is that the main place?
Yeah, it's the main place for now, but I'm working on trying to get on TikTok, which is hard for me because I'm a millennial and I don't know what I'm doing. So I have no idea what I'm doing. So, but I feel like it's a good place. So I'm going to be on there too. And then I'm also working on my own website right now. That's going to be really beautiful. So that's
exciting.
Yeah, that's a new thing I didn't have before.
Yeah. So for anybody who struggles with my pronunciation of your Instagram or your business name, it is spelled SVAER.
It's like an I. Yeah, or at least in Icelandic it's pronounced as an I. But I know that in Norwegian, because it's a character that's in Norwegian as well, right?
Yes, the little A and the E that are connected.
Yeah, because I know it's pronounced differently in the different languages. Yeah, I know in Danish it's an right?
Right, yeah, because I think in Swedish as well, it kind of depends on the word, but in Norwegian, I'm not a linguist, nor am I a Norwegian teacher, so I'll be a bit careful about this, but I'm pretty sure the A sound is one of the ones that stays. No, actually, no, it doesn't. I immediately remembered a word, but it tends to stay pretty consistent as an A sound.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and I think in modern day Swedish it doesn't even exist anymore. I think it's an old Swedish. It used to exist.
I think it's technically part of the alphabet, but they don't really use it. Just like Norwegians don't use Z's, but we still got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it actually
Z's. I apologize.
Because the name Sværia, where I got it from, it's because like I said to you guys earlier, it's actually not an Icelandic word. That's why Icelandic people sometimes also get confused and don't pronounce it the Icelandic way. It's actually comes from. It's an old Swedish word that I used, which is kind of a personal story that I will maybe get into. I'm not sure if I will get into it, but it's it's a Swedish word.
But without getting into why you chose it necessarily, do you like what is the meaning of that old Swedish word? Just like what's the definition of the word?
It means, from what I learned at least, because I don't speak Swedish fluently, it means like like making an oath, swearing.
Oh,
so I thought it was really beautiful.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's a similar word in Norwegian, so that makes sense.
I think the modern day word is Sværia, something like that, but with an A with a little umlaut on it, I think.
Yeah, and in Norwegian it's with an E, so it's Sverige.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
That was going to be my first question as well, was where does the name come from?
No, I didn't expect that question. I would have had an answer already, but I didn't expect we were going to go there.
Dan and I are always curious about where stuff comes from, and I'm also now I just feel like I did not know that that letter was pronounced differently in Icelandic. That's
Really?
very interesting. Yeah, no, I had no
Oh.
idea. I will say, just to cover my own ass a little bit, a lot of my teens was spent, or like late childhood, and pretty much all of my teens were spent outside of Norway. So my like Nordic and Scandinavian knowledge is somewhat lacking at a few
Oh,
points that I
interesting.
notice now in adulthood that I'm like, oh, I feel like I would have known this if I'd stayed in Norway.
I
but
didn't
since we lived
know.
abroad.
Yeah, I didn't know. I remember from one of like other podcasts that I watched that you lived in the US for a really long time, which is actually also where because I sound like I'm American. I that's also my story as well. I lived in the US for 8 years, so that's why I sound like
right?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
why
lived
I
in the
don't.
US for 5, so.
Okay, there you go. It will. Yeah.
And that accent, like
it sticks. It doesn't go away. I've tried. I've tried, but it doesn't.
It can get a bit influenced. Like now that I've lived in Norway for quite a while, when I went back to the States a little more than a year ago, when we stayed there for a while, I started noticing that I do have like a slight cadence that I didn't have before.
Yeah, I think I feel the same as well. It's like slowly getting in there, but it's I feel like when an accent like that develops during kind of formative years, then it tends to stick. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of TV shows are very American. You know, produced in America, you got the accent,
definitely,
and that's got to lead into it. Because I know a lot of, to my ears anyway, I think a lot of Scandinavians that we have on here who speak in English have an American kind of twang to their accents. I don't know if you pick up on it as much, Max, but to me, it sounds quite American. I assume that comes from like learning through TV shows and movies.
I think that makes sense. And I also think you're I don't know what it's like in Iceland, but I think also in Norway, it depends also what school you went to, because certain schools have like a focus on, no, we're going to be teaching like some sort of like Queen's English type thing, because England is the closest English speaking country to us.
Yeah.
So that's so when I moved to the States, I said water, and I said and I said dog.
Yeah, I actually
people made fun of me, and now I'm like water.
I did the same.
I'm like water.
I did exactly the same. I had a mix of I had a little bit of a British cadence in there too, and I was made fun of it a lot as well. And now I'm sad that it went away.
Like kid make fun of. Like the fun thing also too was that my dad likes to talk about this one PTA meeting that they had while we still lived in Norway, where my dad, who was a principled person, he has opinions about things. Very sweet guy, but he's very opinionated. He's a very sweet guy, and he's very opinionated.
Well, that's a good thing. I always think that when people are opinion, or it depends on how, of course, but I think having strong opinions, I think that's a good thing.
Like, but what I think is funny about this story is that he was like really like, no, we need to teach our kids like British English, and like he's very Anglophile, like he loves England and everything. And then less than 2 years later, he moved the entire family to the States, or my parents moved in, and I was like, well, there goes the British accent.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, we have so many different accents in such a small area. I often think about this, like the difference in accents that I can get to within an hour and a half drive from where I am. You can be like in Liverpool and have somebody with like a really thick Scouse accent. 2 hours you'll be in Newcastle with a Geordie accent, and then you'd also be in Birmingham with like a Brummie accent, and they're
so different.
They're very different, and it's literally just a couple of hours. And then obviously you've got my accent in the middle that's like really just dull and kind of
I don't think your accent, it's not dull.
I think it's stud. No, but when I say dull, I don't mean.
I think it's super charming. It's so charming.
I think so too. Yeah, it's definitely not dull.
I don't mean. I don't mean. Well, I didn't mean necessarily dull as in boring. More dull as in like thud, as in like quite. I feel like it's quite heavy and brutal almost in that it's.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
We miss a lot of like I said, with water. I'd be like water. I'd like there's no T in there. I just skip straight past that.
That's really fun. Also, again, as an aside, this is what we do a lot. Funny is that like we have a million tangents.
Yeah.
Oh, I
as you
know. I
probably
watch
know,
every
having
single
listened to-
episode. I
Oh,
watch
bless
every
you.
single one.
Oh,
I knew.
wow!
Yes, I knew what I was getting into. I was
Okay, great.
prepared. That's why I feel like I already know you guys, but you don't know me.
Aw!
But like,
I'm excited to get to know
Well,
you then.
we are going to get to the clothes.
So I have two things on the accent thing before we move on.
Okay.
yeah.
The first thing was that when I started when I joined the podcast, my mom very avidly in the beginning listened to the podcast, and she's stopped now, not because it's not interesting, but because she usually listened when she was going to bed, when her and my dad were going to bed, and then she said I had to stop because I use podcasts to fall asleep, and I thought it was nice to fall asleep to you guys talking.
Aw,
But then
that's so sweet.
it's too interesting, so I couldn't fall asleep.
Oh.
But in the beginning, she said that like, yeah, I had a bit of like, I love listening to the podcast, but it is, but sometimes I'm surprised that I find it a bit difficult understanding Dan sometimes. And I was like, really, you do? And I was like, well, I get it, kind of, because you haven't been exposed to British accents as much, and
Right.
they'd lived in
Yeah.
London for a few years, but like they hadn't traveled around too much. But then when I visited them, a few years ago, we binged the entire new rerun of All Creatures Great and Small, about that veterinarian who moves to Yorkshire. I don't know if you guys have seen it,
No,
but
I
it's a
haven't.
very sweet like ITV show set in like the 30s. It's just like, it's wholesome. That's what the whole show is, just wholesome. Then after having watched like binged all that show, what had been released at that point, my mom went, I can understand Dan so much better now. And I'm like, that's because we've been watching an entire show about people in Yorkshire.
Oh.
I do sometimes wonder people who live, in America and they're not exposed to my accent. Or we have,
I would have had a hard time
Yeah.
understanding you
But not
if
even-
we'd met while I lived in the States.
I've heard a lot of Americans say that actually, like while I was living there. I think it's just, I'm sure that, you know this because you also lived in the US, but it's just they're so not used to anything that's not American.
Yeah,
That-
and there are different American accents as well. We're just not used to
Yeah.
listening for them.
Yeah.
But like, I think if you haven't, just like you said, Dan, with having a lot of American TV, and like I'm sure perhaps you also, funny, like grew up with a lot of British TV.
Yeah.
And I also grew up with a lot of Swedish and Danish TV. So that if you watch that kind of stuff, you get more exposed to it. But if you're not even used to that variation,
Yeah.
it
That
can be
makes sense.
difficult to pick up on
Yeah.
stuff.
It is interesting because I haven't looked in a while, but the podcast goes. We get the occasional listeners from everywhere, from South America to like in Asia, and I'm like, what do they think of my accent? What are they're not exposed to this? Like, and it's not the easiest one to understand sometimes. So they must, they must figure it out somehow.
But I mean, if they continue to listen, apparently they get something out of it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
True.
It's got to be. But what's that like in Iceland? Like, are there like a great variety of like accents and dialects in Icelandic? 'Cause
No,
I don't know that.
not really. I think it's. I mean, we just all are centered in like the capital, really. So it's not really. There's maybe a few little ones up north where there's just like a
Sure.
slight harsher pronunciation of some words, but not really. It doesn't really exist here because it's just haven't really the language hasn't also not really developed at all for 1,000 of years. So it's just kind of we don't really have that. But I know in Norwegian it's really there's different languages to basically.
Yeah, there are two different written languages, meaning that it is the same language, but there are two grammatically accurate ways to write Norwegian that are different.
Yeah.
Because the most common one is heavily influenced by Danish. So for a lot of dialects and accents, it doesn't necessarily fit with how they would write stuff. Like consonant, like letters don't match up to how they pronounce their words. So there was this dude, Ivar Aasen, who in the 1800s, I think. This is where like my schooling gets a bit. Ooh, I think Ivar Aasen was in the 1800s. He traveled. Ida, you're in the chat. You correct me on this. I saw you. You correct me on this if I'm wrong. He traveled around and then he basically accumulated and put together this amalgamation of a lot of different pronunciations from a lot of different dialects and put them together in like a constructed written language so that it would be more suitable for a greater variety of dialects. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's if that makes sense to anyone who isn't a native Norwegian speaker. I don't know. I tried my best, but essentially you can write Norwegian in two different ways and be accurate about it. But we have I won't try to imitate any because I'm famously bad at it. But we have a fair share of our own dialects. I think you have to, at least from where I live here in Oslo, in the capital, you have to travel a bit more than an hour and a half to get like that really big change. But there are definitely changes. I noticed that like when I wouldn't necessarily call it a dialect or an accent as such, but there is a mannerism to my speaking that changes if I am like, oh, I'm gonna go back to my like preteen years when I lived in Drammen, which is like 40 minutes outside of Oslo. It is a bit thicker and broader.
Yeah.
And like just the word banana in Norwegian is banan. And if you really want to put like a Drammen accent into it, it would be banan. So like the cadence changes.
Mm. I think it's so interesting that this has changed in Norway because you're basically we started out, 1,000 years ago. We started out with the same language, right?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
if nothing had changed, you would still be speaking something close to Icelandic. So
Yep.
it's so much has changed in that time, and why did it change in Norway but it didn't here? It's so interesting. I guess just because of
It
all
is
the
interesting.
yeah.
I guess
And I think it's
Iceland.
also the topography because like there's a lot of mountains and lakes and everything and
Yeah.
fjords in Norway. So there are certain areas of Norway where if I go there, I suddenly go, but we do speak the same language, right? I am technically supposed to understand what you're saying, but I don't know if I do completely
Yeah.
because this specific area has been so enclosed and isolated that they've developed their own way of speaking. So it is
Yeah.
technically still Norwegian, but I have to like focus to understand.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. I love that so much.
I guess that Iceland would be more isolated as well. Obviously, Norway is gonna have
Yeah.
a lot of
Less
visitors.
influences.
Yeah, from
Hmm.
Sweden and Denmark
Definitely.
and obviously England. Whereas Iceland, you have to make an effort and want to go there. I think, especially
Yeah.
before there's the tourism that there is now.
Yeah, it was bad. Here. I don't know how anyone lived here for 1,000 years. It's insane.
Yeah,
It's
that
crazy.
the weather is. I've only ever been once, and the
It's
weather
abysmal. Yeah.
it's certainly
It's bad.
it's certainly different.
Different, yes.
I really wanted to see the Northern Lights. I've still not seen them, and
Yeah.
I went out. I was near Reykjavik, and I rented a car, and I went and parked out. There's like is there a lighthouse? Is that what I'm? But off the top of my head, or there's like maybe like a little peninsula where you can go and park, and they say this is a good place to go and see. So I drove out there
Yes.
for like 3
Hmm.
nights in a row, and like sat in the car.
Yeah, it's really sad because the tourists have started to pick up that that's the spot now. Because this
Oh,
used to be, I go running there all the time because I'm
okay.
a runner, and I that's one of my favorite places where I will go along that line from downtown to there.
Mhm.
And I used to have it all for myself even just a year or 2 years ago, and now tourists have really started to discover it, and it's
Okay.
Oh.
packed with tourists. It's insane.
Yeah.
So many cars, you can't even drive into it
Uh,
anymore because yeah,
I was one of them,
it's crazy.
but it was
Yeah.
with the wind and
I
rain.
contributed to the
Yeah.
touristification.
The wind and rain was unreal. I actually thought the car was going to roll over
Yeah.
at one point, and
People-
But isn't that interesting on like really bad weather days, just even here in Oslo, which is not that bad comparatively to what you're talking about.
it was
But
terrifying.
sometimes I stand there and think to myself, like, especially if I'm out with my dog and I'm like freezing my ass off and it's like hailing and like the wind is really cold. And I'm like, my ancestors chose to stay here.
Mhm.
And by not moving, I am also actually choosing to. Why
Mhm.
do we choose to stay?
Yeah, it's
Why?
crazy.
I think that tough weather.
If you say makes for tough people, I'm gonna
I
go.
was
I wasn't going to say tough people. I was going to say nice people. I think that.
Oh, okay.
I think that sense of that sense of I don't know, just because it is toughness and like overcoming, like knowing what shitty weather is. Like here, even though it's
That's
not
true.
super cold, it's been raining and it's about 2 degrees. Like, so it's not. It's cold. It's windy. It's raining. It's miserable. But that's just life. That doesn't get you down, but it just kind of makes you, I don't know, whether it makes you appreciate other things or just makes you likable, nicer people. There is a thing about, everybody in the north of England is just nicer than people down south. And I think that's just a thing where it's the weather makes you nicer and happy if you have shitty weather. That's what I'm going with.
I'm just like thinking about people in Reykjavik like driving right now, and I'm just like, yeah. Because we have the most aggressive drivers here that I've ever seen anywhere in the world. I'm just like, yeah, let's go with that then.
That sounds like my place to drive, because I got my license in Spain, which is a hard place to you gotta want to do it to get through that traffic. Okay. So that sounds like I would be comfortable driving there.
Yeah, it's very
be like, get off.
There's one thing to be said is that I noticed the driving when I was there, because I rented a car and it was like a little Jeep with snow tires on. So I was like, because there was a lot of snow when I was there. There was some roads that were impassable and I couldn't go see some things. But that Iceland does have a great system for letting you know what roads are open and closed.
Yeah, for
that
sure,
is one thing I thought was fantastic. But then again, I guess you don't have that many roads, but it's a really good system of you can go and see what is open, what is closed. But I had the Jeep in the snow, and I had my 10-2 on the wheel, and I was like concentrating, really worrying about the.
And you're driving on like the opposite side of the road.
Yeah,
for you.
but I don't want to slip, and I'm like, but then you just got these little. I'm in a Jeep. I'm like, yeah, this is a snowmobile. But then you have like these little, I don't know, little saloons just whipping past and like cutting in front and shooting about. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people doing?
When you are driving here and you see people that are speeding past you and they're driving insane, it's an Icelandic person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's the tourists that drive really carefully. Mm-hmm. And then it's the Icelandic people that we don't care. It's really...
but that tracks. I feel like with my experience also here in like rural areas, it's like the smaller the roads are and like the slimmer it is and the more slippery it is, the people who speed are the locals.
Absolutely.
And then I'm like, I'm so obviously not a local right now because I don't know how like intense this next turn is going to be. So I'm just going to be a bit careful about it. And then someone behind me is coming in like 80 kilometers an hour, just like whoop, and making like in the middle of the turn and everything. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. All right, you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just, should we get into your clothes? We've been here half an hour now.
We're half an hour into it. Let's get into the topic of the episode.
I didn't know what to expect when we got on this. I was like, I'm just gonna let it. Whatever happens.
A horn maker, a dressmaker, and an archaeologist talking about language is what happened. None of us.
Well, I feel like there are just so many potential things to talk about, right? Because there's just so many things.
But we're here to talk about, obviously, about you and your lovely art, because it is art. I've said on here.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I've said on here so much that clothing, fabric is not something that's in my wheelhouse. You give me wood, I could build something, or metal. I can figure that out because I've been around.
Dan is a manly man.
Yeah, but like I've been on like building. I used to build in trade. I've been on building sites. I get that, but when it comes to fabric, that terrifies me. I'm like, how does this become this stunning dress or like a shirt that doesn't? So when I see things, people making clothing in particular, I'm in awe, and it's very impressive. But then obviously when it's that next level, something, it's not just a dress, it's this stunning piece of artwork that is inspired by your history and where you come from. It's something else. How did you get into this? How did you become a dressmaker, seamstress,
this clothing designer, whatever you want to call it? How did I begin doing that?
Where did it come from?
So I guess first of all, I have to say I'm like half Dutch, by the way. So I grew up in the Netherlands, actually. I speak Dutch.
The multiculturalism on this episode is just stunning.
There's a lot. It's quite a
the
personal
multiculturalism from you two.
Of Northern
Not
Europe.
from me. The multiculturalism of Dan is just Yorkshire.
Yeah, but we
I
don't
can't take any
have
credit for that.
but we don't have any Yorkshire in our
No,
you
no.
know, so you bring something different to the table
Okay.
then.
Okay.
We don't have that.
Exactly.
My one language.
Yeah, that's fine.
But okay. But okay. So how did you get
So,
into
I kind of expected that this question would come, and I didn't really know where to begin. I'm not sure if I remember one specific point. I think I remember when because I was going to school in the Netherlands, so um I went to like university there, and I went to an art school, and it was probably around that time I think that it started. But I think when you are from Northern Europe, I think this Viking, world history is kind of always very close by. I think it's kind of everywhere.
It's hard to avoid.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So I think you're already exposed to it, I think. Naturally. But I think it probably where it really started was because I was in university. I went to an art school, and it was a really nice school, and it was very difficult to get into, and I was really proud to be in there. And I very quickly figured out that I wanted to do something with textiles, and I actually wanted to dress rock stars. That's what I really wanted to do, because I got into heavy metal very early on when I was 12 already, and I think that kind of combination of I think the combination of like the Viking influence getting into heavy metal really did like something for me, I think.
Yeah.
And I think
those two are certainly linked.
yeah, it was just it just blew my mind. Like just the musical aspect of, I guess, just um the music that came from like this kind of world, I guess, just that Viking influence into, for a lack of better terms, like Viking influence um into music, and that combined, that just blew my mind. I thought it was just the most amazing thing I'd ever heard. I think it probably started with that. I think I was just so fascinated
So cool.
with the music, and I wanted to dress those bands. That was what I really wanted to do, and I was 17 years old when I realized I wanted to do that. And yeah, it's quite a story of how I got here, I guess. But that was my first. I remember that was my first inspiration. And actually, I was on a trip. I don't think I've ever told anyone this story. Actually, I was on a school trip. I was going to Berlin on by bus, and I found because we were very close to Denmark, and we found these like Baxit cans. I'm sure Margareta, like probably know what I'm talking about, like the beer cans.
I don't like they pop up
yeah.
Yeah, they pop up in our like home bargains now for some reason. With like have they got like a Viking on them with like an axe?
They have really beautiful artworks on them. There's some of them. I don't know if they do anymore, but I remember around that time, definitely. That was one of
they're bigger than like a normal can, or the ones we get here.
The really
like
big
massive.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really big, and they had really beautiful, stunning artworks on them. And it sounds really crazy, but I remember being on that trip, and I found these cans at just a gas station, and I thought it was so beautiful. And I think that was probably my main inspiration, where I was like, oh man, if I could do like clothing that looks like this, that would be really, really cool. And I don't know.
I love that so much.
It's so random, but that's kind of, honestly, I was just like listening to my little Viking music on the bus, and like looking at these cans that I just bought, and I was like, oh man, that would be that's it. That was really like the moment, the only moment I can remember that I was like, yes, this is what I was so inspired by that. I don't know why.
No, but I get it. My original inspiration to do archaeology came from reading a fantasy novel, so I feel you.
Really? Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. And then, did you start making clothes for yourself, or did you ever make any for any rock stars?
I did, and I started because it really started with this trip because I was in school, and I was very I was very proud to get into the school because it was very difficult to get in, and there was that sort of like a audition process where you had to come in with your portfolio, and it was a very strict selection. And I was so happy to get in, but then as soon as I got in, I wanted to do this, so I actually wasn't. I didn't really show up very much.
It
But
was,
there
was
was
this
But
not?
sometimes it's about getting in, right? It isn't necessarily about like
true.
getting a degree or finishing it. It's about the
Well,
fact that I got in.
Yeah, I exactly. Well, true, yes, but I remember that there was this shop that was they were selling heavy metal related clothing that was very close by to my school, and I passed it every day when I was walking, to school, and I went in a lot, and I became friends with the owners. It was a couple that was a middle-aged couple that was owning the store, and I became really close friends with them, and they were selling at big metal festivals as well. So it kind of started snowballing from there because I spent more time in that store than I did at school.
I
And
can just imagine your parents are like, she's gone to this prestigious school,
my
doing
mom,
amazing, and then you're like, actually, I want to dress rock stars and listen to heavy metal.
my mom so I give her so many headaches. It's insane. When she's watching this, she's probably going to be like, yeah, I'm not even sure if she was aware of this, so she's finding out now through the podcast. Probably.
I love that.
But I was spending more time there, and I knew what I wanted to do, so I was still following through with school, but I wasn't really paying much attention to that. And they were selling at big festivals, like the biggest metal festivals around Europe. So at some point, because they knew I started to make clothes and I wanted to dress my favorite bands, that was my dream. And they said that there was a deal if I came to work for them for free at the festival, then I would have a section of my clothes in their shop. And so that's kind of how it started. And it was a really good deal, and it was doing extremely well. People were very interested. And I had a VIP bracelet, so I could go backstage and talk to the bands that I wanted to work for. And at the time, now I'm 31, so I don't have that kind of confidence anymore. But I was
same.
I was 17.
Cheers for that.
I didn't
Fearless.
care. I was just walking backstage with these massive, massive bands and just being like, hey, would you like this? And I just had pieces prepared. I just came there with a full bag of clothes. And yeah, it worked. And I was actually discovered by a really, really big band very quickly. I think I was 18 or 19. And they found me on Facebook, and they had millions of followers on their page, and they did a shout out to me because they were so impressed with what I was doing. And then I dressed the singer, and I was just 19 years old. So, and that kind of started there, really.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The confidence of youth.
Yeah.
I know. It's just one of those things. I think about this all the time because I don't have this confidence anymore now. Now I'm like nervous sitting here on this podcast, and then thinking about 17-year-old me just marching into the backstage of like a massive festival. It's insane. It's just like the cockiness of a teenager, like the confidence is just.
It's a bit kind of adjacent to the whole like I'm never gonna die thing.
Yeah,
like
it's
whatever,
just,
consequences be damned. But like let's grab life by the balls or the ovaries or whatever, and just like go for it.
Really, you can just you think you can take on the world at that point.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I'm so glad I did that then, because I would never now. Oh my god, I could never. But
confidence, it can carry you a long way, though. I think confidence is a very attractive trait, and it gives you, especially when it comes to art, if you are confident in what you're selling, what you're taking, what you're making, that feeds off to whoever you're showing it to, and then they become interested. I've walked, we sell at Comic Cons, and I'll walk around, and you'll see there were people just sat there on the phones with their stall in front of them and they've kind of lost interest and they're not engaging. And you're like, it could be beautiful, but I'm like, it's not inspiring me. But then I'll walk past somebody and they'll talk to me and they'll tell me about how it was made. And the amount of times I've bought things, and I always try to, often like overpaying for things as well, because I think it's like a nice thing to do. I've been in that position, and artists never charge enough for their artwork.
Oh my, that's a 3-hour conversation I could get.
Yeah.
So I do always try to be generous, and it's this thing of, if somebody is engaging and they're talking to me, I bought things I don't even like. Because I've had this conversation. I'm like, you know what? It's not my taste, but you're really passionate about this and you love it, and it's clearly good for what it is. And I'm, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take some because you're selling it. And I think that is such a big part of any industry, but in particular, like this creative one, of having the belief. Because if you hadn't had that belief in yourself, then it wouldn't have snowballed into all the things that you did after.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really just comes down to marketing, essentially.
Which is marketing yourself.
Yeah.
I have to ask though. Maybe you can't say. I just have to ask the band because I'm so curious in myself.
I was curious too, but I was like,
I can say. Of course.
I was like,
I don't know how familiar you guys are with the metal scene. I'm a huge metalhead, so I still.
It entirely depends. So my knowledge is good depending.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a Finnish band. Well, my taste then was a little bit different than it is now, because I was, very young, and now I'm 31. So, but it was the band is Korpiklani. It's a Finnish band. It's like,
I'm not even going to.
It's like a folk metal band. So that was the first one, and there were a couple more that followed after that, and then I kind of made the switch to not doing that, not really doing the kind of rock star gear anymore, but more what I do now. And then some different projects came my way.
But so what did that shift kind of entail? So you said you went from making kind of like rock star kind of gear to making what you do now. But so what does that mean? What does that change look like? The things you made before and then the things you make now, what is the difference between the two?
It's hard to explain, but I this will also be a section.
You can do it. I believe in you.
This will be like something that's on my website as well. I really wanted to have a nice portfolio of everything that I've done, and then like nice pictures. So if people are curious about this, then they can, if they didn't know already, if they haven't followed me for that long, they will be able to see it on my website soon. But it was more, I made like leather jackets and pants and things like that. So it was just, I was
typical rock star.
Yeah, but it was very different. It's hard to explain. You really have to see it, because it did have a very, it did have like a very sort of barbarian kind of style to it almost. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like a lot of fur and a lot of detailing and leather tooling that I did. So I would hand tool the logo of the band like on the back or something, or I would like incorporate like details. So it was very unique, and it's very difficult to explain. Bespoke. Yeah.
So how did you?
But so now then what is it more like complete like gowns or what, or is it just like the fact that it's not necessarily tailored for someone specific, or what?
Yeah, it's more, I think it became a lot softer, I would have to say, like a bit more feminine, less catered to just more fabric rather than just leather. More like colorful, just kind of a complete shift. Even though it's still in the same world, it was a complete shift for me. And I don't know. I kind of think that also just kind of changed with my personality a little bit, I think. And I dressed some of the bands that I wanted to dress, and then I wanted to do different projects, and I've done really big projects after that too, which I think it's kind of cool to talk about this now on the podcast, because I don't think many people that are even have followed me for a really long time on Instagram know these things. Like I've done quite a lot of big things that I haven't really
Do
talked
tell.
about very much. So, well, I was so okay. This ties together with the story of taking a break for 3 years and then coming back. So I think this is something that we were going to talk about anyway. I guess.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't that is just following you now may look on your Instagram and be like, well, she's not really
because
done anything
I
in
noticed
the last
that, but I
3
was
years.
like, yeah, I noticed. I was like, oh, there hasn't really been a post since 2022. And then I went back and I was like, when was the last time I posted? Well, that was in November 2024. So, yeah. But I was like, I get it. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess that's unusual for a business, I suppose. But yeah, so how do I frame this chronologically so it ties together with the comic? So, okay. So in 2019, this was, I think, so for like, I guess I started this business when I was like 2013 or something, I think, and that's around the time that I was starting to dress the bands. And I did that for a few years, and then I moved to the US when I was 20. So that's 11 years ago now. I don't know what year that was. Don't know. And I was doing that for a couple of years, and then I made the shift, and then in 2019 is really, or 18 was really when it took off and it became my full-time job, which is also something I don't think many people realized, that this was not just my hobby anymore. It was actually, I was living off of this fully. And I had
that's a scary transition.
It was it was crazy. I mean, you can probably relate, I'm sure.
It's that fear of doing it and the time before where you're effectively running 2 full-time businesses. Like, can I make this work? Can I do it? Trying to talk yourself that it's possible, but then that little thing in the back of your mind that's like, no, it's all going to fall apart. It's going to fail. You're an idiot. Stick with the safe thing. But sometimes you have to just kind of do it, and then you're forced to figure it out.
Yeah, definitely, because I do think that doing that is a very big, you learn so much from doing that because you have to make it work. If you're choosing like, okay, this is going to be my full-time job, then now you will work twice, 3 times as hard because this is what you're doing. So you're forced to figure a lot of shit out that you know, otherwise you would have that safety net. And so there's a lot of pros and cons to that, I guess. But I was able to do it because I got quite a lot of big projects, and I was approached suddenly. It was in 2019, and I was approached by New York Fashion Week. Sent me an email. They wanted to have me on a runway. I was
snap.
It was
just casually, just
New York Fashion Week, no biggie.
Yes. And so they approached me. I declined because I for lots of reasons, because I didn't have
no, but how cool, to me that's almost cooler.
Badass.
You didn't even apply. Like, you were headhunted by New York Fashion Week and you said no thanks.
I guess, well, thank you, you're making me feel so much better about it, I guess. But so
that's pretty metal.
Thanks.
If the opportunity ever comes up again, I reckon
I'll say yes.
I would love to walk the catwalk in some leather tooled barbarian pants.
I'll ask you, Dan.
Yeah.
I would
opening the show.
I would be
Daniel Farrant, everybody.
I just got the strut, and I'll do the turn at the end and the smouldering look. I could do it.
Yeah, you can.
Hell yeah. Anyway, so so they approached me, and then it was Grimfrost, as you guys know who they are. They also, which was a big deal at the time for me because I was just so young and I was just a starting business. And so Grimfrost approached me as well, and they wanted to buy and resell some of my clothes. So they were basically just like, hey, you make like a collection, you make a selection of some clothes. We don't care what it is, and we're going to buy it from you, and then we will resell it. And that was such a honor at the time, because I felt like they didn't even select specific products. They just asked me to just make some. They trusted me enough to just make beautiful things, and then they wanted to resell it. It was insane. And so I did do that. And then I was approached by a Hollywood TV series that wanted to. They were working on a pilot that they were going to shoot, and then it was going to turn into a full series. That was their goal. And they asked me very. It was very last minute. It was a very quick thing. They just approached me. They sent me an email, and they were like, "Hey, we are looking to dress the lead actress. Can you create this and this and this within the next couple of weeks?" And I was like, "Okay, yes, I guess I'm going to do that." And so I was making armor at the time as well, and I created five armors, I think, and 5 tunics or something like that within.
In 2 weeks?
It was like 2 or 3 weeks. It was insane. I didn't sleep. I don't know. Looking back at it, I don't know how I did it.
Crazy.
Because there was no way I was going to say no to that.
Yeah, it's frustrating because they know that you're not going to say no to that as well. Because they could have sorted that earlier. They could have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they know, they understand the weight of things.
Are you allowed to say what show it was?
It was, I think it was called Triangle, something like that. I don't know really. I don't think it turned into a series, which is fine because it still looks really good on my portfolio, and it's really,
of course.
Obviously it's insane.
But I think it also your number is somewhere in their system as well now, or your email is in their system. So when it comes up that they need something else like that, then they'll just be like, "Oh well, so getting your foot in the door." Kind of like when we had Jackson Crawford on, he was saying even early on he got in with Disney, and that obviously keeps paying dividends because he's like their guy now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just I think it's with things like that you have to say yes, regardless of what it looks like. You're going to do it. And so I figured it out, and I am so really glad I did. So that was very huge, and I had to ship it to Hollywood. It was crazy. It was just, I remember getting the address, and it just said Hollywood. And I was like, wow.
Wow, okay.
What?
Yeah. That's yeah.
Is this real life?
Yeah, and she gave me a phone call as well. She was just acting as if she had known me forever. She was just this random woman from the costume department that sent me just called me, and she was like, "Hey, can you do this?" I was like, I guess, and that was it. That was it, really. So
I was just trying to see if I could find anything.
I don't know. I know I was in touch a little bit with. They didn't really reveal that much to me either, which is usually it's a very secretive thing, and I don't really know that much about the world, that world, but it seemed to be a very secretive thing. So I wasn't allowed to really talk about it and do anything, and so that's all kind of happened all at once, and which was really cool. And I, at that point, also my personal store, because I was just making collections and I was selling them in my store. I was putting them online, and then random people could buy them, and that was also completely blowing up. So at that point, it was just, I was set financially. I was like, okay, I think I can do this full time.
Yeah.
And it was really, really great. I did that for a couple of years. So I was living in the US. And
where in the US did you live, by the way? Not that it matters, but I'm just curious. Pittsburgh.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really random because I moved there for a guy. So I didn't move with my family or anything. It was just by me alone. Went out from the age 20 to 28. And so I was living there alone, and so I guess it gets like, you know, slightly personal here a little bit, but I won't get super
You
deep
only
into
share
it.
what you're comfortable
Yeah.
with sharing.
Yeah. So
No need to go into details if you don't want to.
no, yeah, it's I'll keep it, you know, but basically, so my career was blowing up at when I was, yeah, it was like 2019, and I was doing so well. I was living in a beautiful apartment, and I was just living so well off of this. It was really great, and I was going through. I was in a relationship at the time that was that lasted for about 3 years or so, 2 or 3 years, and it was uh there were some things. It was mostly through that relationship that was just not very, it was not very good for me. It was not very healthy for me, and I was alone in the United States. I was away from, you know, my friends and my family, and it was just a very traumatic time. Not to go into too much, but it was, I was going through the heaviest trauma in my life that I'd ever like gone through, and it was a big part of it was this relationship that I was in for so long. And um I was at the peak of my career and then the lowest of like my personal life, pretty much. So it was just a really,
Isn't
really
it interesting how that happens?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yes.
I've experienced that too.
Really? Oh. Well, sorry to hear that, but it's
well, like just like but just like that weird dichotomy of like professionally I'm just there, and then but like everything else on the personal side is just kind of here
on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I it's actually not the first time that I've heard people say this. I think this is a thing that I have heard more.
I wonder if
times. It's crazy.
You put more into the work as the home and the life.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just like this sort of balance, I guess, this sort of like universal balance of like, oh, when something is really up, and I don't know. It's really interesting.
I think also there is something very creative that comes out of very dark situations.
It is
like
cliche, but it is also, there's truth to the cliche.
I mean, going through things, there is that creativity that comes with it. There's a reason why there's a lot of good songs that are written from very dark places.
Definitely.
And I think that there is that kind of creativity that comes out of that, and the outlet, and then maybe
the tortured artist.
Yeah, so if you're an artist, then
I was literally going to just say that. I was going to use the word tormented artist. Yeah, it's absolutely true. But I think at the time, because I was my personal life was just so bad, and I was having a lot of PTSD, which I'm still dealing with. I still have it pretty heavily, but I was going, it was just a lot of really severe trauma, and it was really hard to run a business and do all these things at the same time, and I couldn't really enjoy them. So I was trying to, which is something that I think the people that have followed me for a really long time, that have kind of been my customers for a long time, they knew that there was a period of time when I was falling behind on orders a lot, because my orders were going through the roof, which I was so grateful for. But I didn't have the mental capacity to really keep up with it at all. And I was falling behind on orders. My quality went down the drain, so I wasn't always creating the best quality stuff anymore. And I really thought like, okay, I need to kind of reset here for a moment, because I felt like it was going to ruin my business and just make it so much worse. And so I kind of stopped, and I wanted to move back home, and I wanted to be here, and I moving back to Iceland was just like one of the best choices I've ever made in my life. It was just so nice. And
did you because you said you grew up in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But you originally from Iceland.
Well, like half, but which is kind of a personal story as well, but like half.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of
you grew up both places, kind of.
It was just mostly the Netherlands, but then I kind of later in life started kind of uncovering that part. So I just really, I knew I wanted to be here, and it was better for my art as well, because I was traveling all the time. Well, I was like living in the US, and I now looking back at it, I don't know what I was doing there for that long. It was crazy. But I was
It's
just coming
surprising what
here.
you can put up with or deal with when it's
Yeah,
the proverbial frog in the boiling
yeah.
water, that it
Yeah,
just gets worse and worse and worse
100%.
and worse, and it's, you don't realize how bad it is sometimes until that
Definitely.
disconnect.
I think that was a big part of it, for sure, is being so in it and then not really realizing until like later that it was like really that bad. But yeah, then I moved, and I decided to just make a complete change. And I was like, uh I just have to be at home. I have to reconnect with my people, and I need a reset because I can't keep doing this. And I was going through a lot of personal transitions in my life, just so much, and I kind of knew that it would change my business and my art as well, because of course it's like a reflection of yourself. Um so yeah, so I did that, and then I moved back at the end of 2022 in the winter, and I've been here since. And I didn't really have the plan to take a 3 year break. I didn't really come here and then be like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do, because
Yeah.
it just kind of happened, and it felt really nice, I think, to take a break from that. And I just wanted to come back when I was ready, because it was because I wasn't able to do my job that well. I was afraid that I was kind of building a bad reputation for myself online, and that people were kind of upset. And I yeah, it was just really an upsetting time, and I didn't really want to upset people. So I'm like kind of nervous to come back a little bit, because I've been gone for so long, and now I'm like, oh man, does
I get
anyone
that.
still care? Am I
Yeah.
gonna make the same? I just
I
yeah.
mean, the social media structure landscape is probably very different than it was 3 years ago. Obviously, you have
I
TikTok.
know.
You have
I have
TikTok now as well, but
It moves so fast.
I have
Yeah.
noticed. I literally the other day I was which was just a few days ago. I tried to figure out, because I was like, oh no, now there's something different with Reels, because you used to be able to post a video with just a regular post. I remember that you could just go to post, and then you could just select a video, and then you could post that. But now it goes to Reels, which wasn't a thing 3 years ago. And
No.
I was trying to figure it out, because I was like, oh man, I need to post something soon, I guess. And then I couldn't find the new post button. I couldn't find it.
It's in like
I
the top
searched.
left now, I think. I think it's in the top
Yes,
left.
it's on the like left, right, and
Yeah.
I literally couldn't find it. I was looking for like 15 minutes. I was like, am I?
Daddy's been 31.
But that is
Just
something that does make me feel old every time I go
Yeah.
into some sort of like application or social media thing, or like software update or anything that I'm like used to, and I see that there's been a major layout change, and I'm like, not again.
yeah, I know. It's yes.
Can
I
some
can't.
things just stay the same? I feel like I'm 78 years old saying this,
know.
but please, for the love of God,
Same.
Oh.
I
we
can't.
have to change around where all
I
the
can't.
buttons are.
I have to say, the 3 years off of social media were just amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I
I
bet.
was like, I have not missed this.
that disconnect. But even, us posting this episode, and obviously the new collaborator thing, which wasn't a thing when you would last around, the collaborating on a post.
I was like, what do I have to do? Do I have to accept something? I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of nice, there's a lot of nice comments. People clearly are still interested in your work and what you do, and the stuff you create is.
I mean, give a shout out if you ever want to collaborate on something. Like,
Yeah.
I'll of course pay you, but like,
Yeah.
of course. But
Yeah.
not that I have a big following or anything, but
Yeah. The stuff
absolutely.
you create is
because it's stunning.
It's very
Thank
it's beautiful, and it speaks for itself. And I think that in a time where there is this pushback now against, I think, like AI posts, AI videos. You missed all that. We fill you in on all of the whole AI time. You skipped that really, because
I remember like AI was like slowly starting to come like peek through in like late 2022.
Yeah.
But then since then, it's just
Mhm.
it's a sickness. It's a
Yeah.
disease.
But I
I
see a
hate
lot
it.
of
I can't.
I see a lot of
Mhm.
people. There's a clear AI post that's only AI, that a lot of the comments now are like saying AI, but AI, but like there is like a resistance to it, I think.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
beautiful. It's that again. It's that age old thing of like when something is like a piece of art is timeless. It's made well. It is timeless. Like I'll have things that I don't. I have things in my house that I own that I don't really like the style or the out, but because it's a beautiful thing, it transcends
Yeah.
people's own tastes and likes. It is a thing that just exists in itself, and with you with the things you make and the pictures you take, because it's all right making a nice product, but you also have to. Photography is a
Yeah.
The
huge part
pictures
of it,
that you post are
and they're stunning.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So I think that
Oh.
is going to that will stand the test of time, but it's then just bringing maybe that video aspect in
Yeah,
where you can.
I'm trying to work on that because I wasn't used to that before being on video,
Mm.
and now I'm trying to expand that as well because I feel like it's just because I do, by the way, this is something I don't know many people realize, but I do all the photography myself as well. So
wow.
I do
Wow.
literally everything that you see on there. I go out there with a tripod and
Multi-talent over here.
Mhm.
I do it myself, which is actually I feel like I'm not that good at photography because all my photos are raw images pretty much. I don't know how to use Photoshop or edit, like Lightroom or edit
think-
anything, which I actually I quite like because I started at first I felt like I wasn't good enough at photography because it's also a lot harder doing it when you have a tripod in front of you and you can't see exactly what's going to happen. You just kind of have to whatever happens is what happens. And I felt like I wasn't good enough at it because when you look at photographers online, they always have these over edited photos and it's so beautiful and it looks like National Geographic and it's just amazing. And then here I am with just a raw photograph.
Mhm.
But in a way, I think I want to use that as my strength. I think because it makes it more real. It's just what it looked like.
It's
It's not
relatable as well.
yeah, exactly. And
things-
Yeah.
especially in now in this time when nothing is real or natural at all anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's really nice.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
again will. I think humans have a even as good as AI has got, there you can still just have a feeling like when something's you're
Yeah.
like that's not quite right. That's a humans. I think we've got this built-in kind of like bullshit detector
There's
where
a
you can just
slight like uncanny valley, slightly
Yeah,
not like
Yeah.
blurry, but like there's like a slight like how do I describe
Yeah.
it? Like a
Mm-hmm.
softness
it
to it in a way that
feels
just
Definitely.
is
off.
there's something that is and that's something that I actually really love about your photos because you say that you didn't feel like you were good enough photographer, but again, and I'm not a professional photographer in any way, but having had a job that required me to do a lot of photography in a lot of difficult lighting situations, from the little that I learned from that practical experience, I would say that you use natural light exquisitely
Oh, thank you.
because everything is so crisp and clear.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
that's
you
what
know, that speaks in your
yeah.
favor.
I think that's where I had to become good because I'm not very good at editing photos. So I have to be when I take them, they have to be good right away. And of course, there's little retouches that I know how to do, or if I have a
Sure.
pimple on my face, well, I'm gonna remove that. I know how to do that. But not really I don't know how to do big
Mhm.
professional editing. And I always thought that was my shortcoming, but now I feel like I'm going to lean into okay, maybe this is actually this thing that I thought was my shortcoming. Maybe that's actually really great because it made me really good at figuring out composition and lighting when it's just needs to be right. And I think a lot of photographers maybe don't, I mean, I don't know, but they don't pay attention to it as much because you can change it later.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. So
I
it's,
think at least a lot of like social media photography probably
yeah.
works that way.
Mhm.
But I think that's also I mean, now that you're getting, back into it, I also think if nothing else, the fact that you don't focus on editing too much then also shortens kind of the workload needed
Definitely.
to get stuff out.
Definitely.
Yeah, which is a big part of social media, is not having to spend the time and effort, and because especially you never know what's going to work, what's going to be good, and you spend all this time and effort, and then it's like two people like it, and it's like, fuck
I
you.
know,
So that's
especially
where you don't want to,
Yeah, no, it's totally, and I think especially now with how long I've been gone, the algorithm is probably horrific. I'm sure when I post my first photo, it's going to have like 15 likes. So because nobody will see it, and that's so frustrating.
But speaking of feeling older in the online space, I remember a time back in the Facebook days, back before even Instagram was a thing, where likes wasn't even the thing that you were hunting for. It was how many comments you got that was the quality indicator. And I remember the shift going from comments to the amount of likes something got.
True.
I think as well, like, I don't like anything anymore. I have to really like something, like, especially if it's a video, I'll watch it. Very rare that I double tap. And I just scroll. It's just not a thing. I don't even think about liking something. I just like, so it's more the views, I guess, but also as as I said at the top of the show, you just have to tickle those algorithm balls, and
I know you
that's all you got to do, and then you're right back in there.
Yeah, it's probably gonna take a while, but we'll just see whatever happens.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, if the biggest, at least from my sake, and again, I don't have a massive following or anything, but I've just noticed in conversation with other people as well that, like, and we've talked about this, Dan, if the point isn't necessarily to garner the most attention or the like biggest amount of likes or comments or views or whatever, and you're focusing on posting what you want to post,
that's the
then
biggest
at
thing.
least your own stamina is going to last longer.
I think that's
definitely
that's the problem. And even with the videos I make, I'm like, I really want this to reach out, and I really want it to like be viewed, like, and it's like, does it really matter? I'm making them because I enjoy making them, and they're fun, and it's a little thing that's a little, it's a little task for me to do, and I guess a hobby. But we're taught to hunt those views, hunt those likes, whereas I think the stuff that I like the most is just people who are natural and authentically themselves. And
because if I was trying to chase what people really like, especially in this community, in this world, I think it would be very different than what I make, because I don't think that it really hits all those spots of what people really really love, because otherwise I would be probably not to I'm probably digging myself into a hole here that I'm sure I should, maybe I shouldn't do. But I feel like if I wanted to get the views, I should be doing a little more face makeup, a little more war paint, a little more
but then
you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I even made the change of wearing absolutely no makeup on the podcast just because I was sick of feeling like I had to do stuff to
love
be
that.
seen.
I love that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But my point was also that, like, if you, and I'm speaking of like the general you here, not you specifically, but I also feel like something that social media has really shown over the past just like year and a half is just that, like, those trends change so quickly. So if you're hunting, like if you're trying to stay within like certain trends, then you have to make continuous shifts and changes
all the
because
time.
they're going to change almost overnight. But then if you stay consistent to what you yourself enjoy, at least you'll have like a longer lifespan.
Yeah, which is something that I also, because I'm very fascinated with business in general now, which is I have mixed feelings about, I guess, because in a way I think when you really learn business and marketing and like all that stuff, then you really learn.
That fucking changes all the time as well.
It does, and when you really figure it out, when you go into the nitty gritty, it's all about kind of manipulating people to get what you want. And when I
money.
really, the more I'm learning about it, the more it doesn't really sit very well with me, because I don't like to. It doesn't feel right to me. I just want to make art, and so
I feel like that speaks in your favor, to be honest. When you go like, I don't like actively manipulating people.
No, it just feels bad to me. It's like, okay, well, but I just want to make beautiful things, and then hopefully people will like it. So, and that sounds very naive, but I guess there's a balance there, I suppose, of incorporating certain of those aspects when you're trying to run a business, and you have to kind of find a balance of like sticking to being consistent with something, because I also think that that does well in business as well, is when you have a consistent product that just delivers. And it doesn't change. I think that also really works well, but it's just a balance of trying to please the crowd and then also sticking to a product that you believe in. It's hard, and it's crazy.
That speaks to me so much, because I have that where I'm like, because I consider myself a good person, so I don't think I'm a great.
You are. I can attest.
I don't think I'm a great businessman. Whereas I got into the business by accident. I made like a horn, and then it spiraled into having this company and employees, and then it's now you have to make changes that maybe you don't want to make because you have other, you have people to pay and all these other things going on, so you have to change things that you necessarily don't want. And really deep down, I'm like, I just want to make cool stuff and show it, and hopefully people buy it. But you have to play all these different games and wear all these different hats and get trapped up in this other world that you don't really like. And like, say, if I was, an asshole and a truly only business-minded money person, I'm sure I could make a ton of money in a different version of the business that I have. But that's just not
exactly
kind of who I want to be. But I find myself falling into traps sometimes because of necessities of having people to look after.
That's exactly what I'm approaching now as well, because that's part of the
this Ibsen.
the doggy.
Sorry, dog break. Sorry, excuse me.
That's something that I'm trying to figure out now as well, is because one of the main changes that I'm making with my business now is that because I realized I couldn't do all the work myself, and I don't really want to, although my mental health is great now, I don't want to fall into that same trap where I was before. So I'm starting to hire people now, and I'm going to be a boss for the first time, which is really scary because I'm not really, I don't really know what I'm doing with that. So that's new, and I'm hiring people to work for me that can do more of the physical work, so I can do more managing and just the design part of it. And I have someone that I'm going to pay now to maintain my website, because I hired someone to make that for me. It was actually a friend of mine who's doing that, and I'm paying him monthly to maintain it. So there's all these things. It's really it's a lot to figure out. People really don't. I don't think that people realize how much it takes to run a business.
And especially as a small business.
Oh my god. I think especially when they see me on Instagram and they see my pretty photos, and they think I'm like just running around in the meadows all day long in the flowers, and that's just what I do. And I'm like, that's not even remotely close to. Also, most of the time when the photos look really wholesome and really nice, I'm actually insanely uncomfortable the whole time because it's so freaking cold, and it takes like 3 hours to get one good shot. So it's just very different than what people think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've done what, an hour and a half.
It's almost 2 hours at this point, I think.
I want to wrap up. We'll wrap up like the main show, and then I want to do a little bit, if you've got time, to do a little bit after, where we go into maybe your inspirations and what you look at. I know earlier when we were messaging you said about the Oseberg ship you're working on some pieces.
I have.
And so that's
what.
So that was the thing where
I'm not excited about that at all.
Where you said you wanted Max.
That doesn't seem relevant for me at all.
You're excited for Max to be here for that. But keep that
Okay.
for 1 second.
Okay.
So we'll wrap up the main show, and then we'll do another little 15-20 minutes on kind of that, with the inspirations that you take from Iceland, from the wilderness, the Oseberg, and we'll look at that little stuff.
Okay.
For anybody listening, obviously, these creator episodes, they're not here to be the super historical ones. We have tons of academics on. These are where you get to know the artists that make things. They're a lot more lighthearted, fun. I love these episodes. I've had a great time just sitting here.
We haven't had one in a while. Yeah. This was really nice.
They're a nice break. It's so good having academics on, but they tend to be quite serious. But these ones where we just get to be silly and just.
I really think, like, just from like an outsider perspective, from somebody who watches the show all the time, I think a balance of both is really, really good, because I have noticed that there's been a lot of academic stuff, which is really, really, I love it. I really, really love it. But I think
there's something to be said for the mix. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think
it makes you.
But I'll pick your brain also, since you are also a listener. I want to get your take on, like, what ideas would you want want to see? But we can say that for afterwards.
So these are I do love these. Like I say, I've smiled, we've laughed, we've been silly. They're a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you're making your way back into doing what you clearly love. You seem like like a very sweet, genuine person who, obviously for whatever reasons, had to take some time off, and I hope all the the best in that it works out exactly how you need and you want it to, because what you make is beautiful, and it would be a shame if that disappeared, I think. So, and I don't know if you make men's things.
I want to. That's another thing that I want to expand. There's a lot of things that are coming, by the way. Just for the people that have followed me for a really long time, there's more coming than just new work. There'll be a lot of different
New York
things.
Fashion Week, here we come. This guy and
Dan opening the show.
I'll practice the.
Ooh, I want to see him in like a fur kilt.
Yeah, a kilt. I've wore a kilt. I've given you my kilt stories on here.
I guess. Now that I'm thinking of the funny stories, by the way, I've been wanting to say that one of the funniest things that I still think about to this day is one of the funniest episodes, because I watch every single one of them. Is Dan, do you remember the one? Do you remember the one with the big dictionary?
The big I think there was early on with
the big
that sounds like before my time.
Yeah, it was Matthias. Matthias had, I think he said something. The way that he said dictionary, but he was just
he was like big dictionary.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but pull him up on it.
Big dick energy.
Yeah, big dick. Yeah.
It just was really. I have cried. There have been so many episodes. I've cried laughing. It was so funny.
I'm going to take it as a compliment
I'd love to hear that
you thought of Mag saying me in a fur kilt made you think of that clip. I don't know what that says.
Well, that's not what that. It didn't.
But you can't take it back now. I'm taking it that way. So too late, and let's wrap up the show.
That's how we end it.
Done.
Obviously, thank you so much for joining us. If I'm going to let you pronounce your business name and where people can find you.
Sværia. So now I'm on Instagram. It's just, do I have to spell it?
Yeah, I think it's best.
I'm not even sure how. Yeah.
Sværia.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically. Yes. Thank you.
That's it.
You're welcome.
And
I've been thinking about it since the first time we tried to spell it.
So Instagram now for now, and then through Instagram you can find all my links to other places I'll be on very soon.
Perfect. We look forward to it. There you go. Mags, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Archeomags, Archeo with a K.
Perfect. For me, Daniel_Farrand1, Horns Voting for the Business, and then Nordic Mythology podcast across the board. And if you want to hear more as we go into the inspiration, go and check it out on Patreon.
Tickle all the balls.
Tickle all those. Tickle.
Squeeze all the butts.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Of the algorithm.
Hopefully your cheeks have relaxed throughout the episode.
Yeah, they have. They are.
They're not clinging to that couch quite as much.
They're clenching a little less right now. Yes.
Good. But yeah, if you like the show, please leave a 5-star rating, positive review, and if you can, look at Patreon. Like I said, it's a small amount to all the people that help us out, but it's a huge thing to us, and it helps us keep going and having lovely guests on like today. So there we go.